post it on the Discord, and maybe someone will join.
All right. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, and the link will be in the Discord. It looks like we got a few people now. That's good. All right. Ah, and look at that. We did it. Technology at its finest. um, hey, everyone that's watching. Thanks for showing up. For those of you that are not in the US, it's pretty late, like my friend David here. So I appreciate him making some time. I think, what is it, 2 in the morning there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
pretty late. So for those of you that don't know, David is part of DST Studio. I've been mentoring David for a few months now, and he and I have been chatting about a game that he wanted to conceptualize. And I thought it'd be cool to share it with the channel and give him a chance to show off what he's been working on, and also give anyone that's watching a chance to ask questions if they want. So, yeah, David, if you want, you can go ahead and show us a little preview of what you've been working on with your game.
Yeah, sure. Let me stream it for you. And gonna be this. So do you want a few minutes of gameplay?
Yeah, just talk
And
through kind
you have
of,
the mining loop, right?
yeah, we could
Yep.
just talk through, what the idea is, what the game is going to be. So the game is called Galactic Veins, and I'll put a link to it that everyone can go check it out if they want. And if you just want to show us the game loop while I do that, and then that way people could see what you've been
Yeah.
working on.
Well, Galactic Vein is gonna be a survival RPG with like heavy RTS elements. I kind of want it to be like Subnautica when it comes to the environment. I want it to be hostile, but also peaceful at times. The idea is that you are going to space mine. Space mining is going to be your life. And that's how you're going to progress through the game and unlock new equipments, new ships, and pretty much that's going to be the game loop for now. So the way I intend it to work is that you have some knowledge to develop, and you do that by harvesting more and more resources. So if I show you quickly how the mining works, because that's done for now. Basically, we use some kind of mini game, I guess, and it relies on a lot of scientific stuff. So basically, you have to find the melting points of different minerals, and that's how you actually harvest them. There's a loose condition to that. So if you don't pay attention, you're gonna just fade the extraction and the mineral is gonna get destroyed. And for now, I'm gonna just do some iron, and that one is pretty straightforward. By the way, the melting points are actually accurate, so if you know the melting points, you can just straight up go for it.
So you can learn
And
about chemistry while also playing a fun game.
yeah, I'm getting pretty good with the periodic table at this point.
Nice.
So you can set the temperature of the laser, and that's gonna be your way of determining if you're good or not. For this one, I think it's 1560, something like that. But if I start too cold, it's just gonna tell me there's not enough heat and it's just gonna do damage. If I go too hot, it's gonna do a lot of damage, but it's also gonna make the excavation progress faster than usual. And if I just go for the right one, let's say 1560, not close, 40, yeah. 40 is optimal, so it's gonna make the excavation progress pretty fast, and there's gonna be a diminishing return on the damages the chunk is taking, so it's just gonna work out, And that's how
Nice.
it goes. So I just harvested some iron, I can do it again,
Yeah, this looks really cool.
and that's basically it. But every single mineral has some specification. Right now we're on the pretty basic stuff, but later on there's gonna be some needs for like different kind of equipment, so you can have different types of lasers. But for now, we're just gonna stay on the regular one, and that's gonna be, yeah, that's it for the mining loop.
Very cool. Yeah, so obviously, this looks fantastic. This just kind of showcases the power of Unreal Engine. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, David is someone who's pretty new to game development, but he's been able to, learn very quickly, I would say, and come up to speed quickly to make this game. So, what made you want to get into game development? Like, why did you choose to get started on this?
Well, I've been playing games for a long, long time now, and I kind of get bored. You know,
Yeah,
you just scroll through Steam and you're looking for games and you just don't find what you want.
right.
And I just felt like, I mean, I can just make it, you know? Let's make the game I want to play. And that's why I'm mixing a few genres I like. And I'm
Hmm.
trying to take the best of them and just make a cool game that I will mostly enjoy to play, you know? And
Right.
if people can enjoy and play it as well, that's beneficial for me. So
Nice.
that's pretty much what got me hooked. And I guess Unreal Engine was pretty like easy to pick
Right.
on, I guess. But
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
like
No,
everything, it's not that easy. You know, it's
yeah.
just you get the feeling, but soon enough you realize it's not gonna be that easy.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's, it's the power of Unreal Engine, but I think it's also, it speaks to you as well. I mentor a lot of game developers that are trying to learn and pick this up, and I think, for me at least, like having a mentor really helped me kind of get to this next level, right? It helped me kind of overcome the tutorial loop of just trying to find courses and tutorials on YouTube and just but like I think that you've picked this up really quickly. And a lot of the people I mentor, though, they have a similar story. They wanted to play a certain game, but it didn't exist, or they really loved a game, but they said, "But what if it could just do this one thing that it doesn't do?" And that kind of gets the wheels spinning on like, I wonder if I could do it myself, So it's pretty cool that you said
Yeah.
that, and just to kind of take control and just go for it. I think it speaks to you also as a developer, just having that mindset. So, um,
Yeah, I think you pointed at the right thing, you know. Mentorship was pretty much what made me keep going, I guess. So thanks to you,
oh,
basically. But yeah, I did a lot of tutorial at first because I've been doing Unreal for like 5 months now, I think, 4 or 5,
right.
and I got pretty like self sufficient. I'm
Hmm.
confident enough to just do things on my own. But if I didn't take your mentorship, I think I would have dropped it pretty much because you get on those like these tutorials, and I'm not a tutorial guy. That's not how I like learning. So
Right.
I'm just gonna end up watching tutorials, and then all the way through I'm gonna get bored,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna go like, yeah, let's do another one. But then everything you did is basically useless now
Hmm.
because you're not actually learning. You're pretty much following along, and I mean it's kind of there's so many of them, and a lot of them are not good enough, I guess. It's not
Hmm.
really teaching, like
Right.
literally. It's just, yeah, that's how I do
Right.
it. You can do it that way, but then you don't know why.
Right.
And that's what I was missing. So that's why I just looked for a mentor because my question are gonna be why are we doing it that way? And when
Hmm.
I know why, then I can do it forever, basically. That I
Right.
just need to learn properly. And
Yeah.
that's what helped me go through the early phase where you
Hmm.
tend to drop out pretty easily.
Yeah. No, I think that's true, and I think that you made a good point of like the why, and I use this analogy sometimes, and I don't know if I've used it with you, so I'm sorry if this is the not the first time you've heard it, but if I
Yeah.
wanted to learn how to build a table, I could go watch a woodworker build a table, but I won't understand why they're choosing a certain tool or why they chose a certain wood, and I'm just going to follow along, but I don't really understand anything other than how to follow exactly how to make that table. What really I need to know is what are the properties of different woods and what are different saws used for different things, and like how do you finish a table, like what are the steps to it, why did you sand
Yeah.
or why did you do this. And so I think that's where having like that one-to-one mentorship can really help, And I think, like you said, I think it has helped you kind of overcome some challenges early on where you may have been looking for a tutorial for hours. And, if you're like me, time is money, right? So why would I want to spend hours looking for one specific tutorial? Maybe it exists or not. Or I could just, spend a little bit of money and try to find someone that can help me kind of cut out all that wasted space and time. So, um, but yeah, if I'm gonna put a quick link in here, if people are watching and they are interested in getting that one-to-one mentorship, I put a link to my website. That's where you can go. You can book a session with me, find a time that works for you. We'll meet up. We'll talk about what your goals are, and we can develop a plan to help you reach those. But really, mainly what I wanted to talk about is this awesome game. So like you said at the beginning, like you were inspired by Subnautica, but you wanted something a little bit different. So what were the steps that you used to like develop this tutorial, this game loop? Like what made you think like this is what I want the player to be doing, and like what you have now is not what we started with, right? So how did that process work for you of like just finding the right balance of what you wanted?
Yeah, well, that's that's really like tedious because you end up doing things and then you just scrap them. But I guess that's the point of like uh, prototyping, pretty
Hmm.
much.
Right.
What I wanted was a game that plays like an RTS, but with way more action and where you don't get lost because in the late game it's just overwhelming.
Hmm.
And for that, I just got some inspiration from like World of Warship. So if you look at the ship, it's pretty much how it works, right?
Hmm.
You
That's right.
don't like it's not real time in the sense that you're not driving it technically. You're just sending some inputs, and
Hmm.
the ship is gonna move, right?
Right.
So you need to anticipate a bit on the movements because obviously you're in space, so there's gonna be some dampening and stuff. So it's not that reactive.
Hmm.
And when you control some equipment, it's just gonna follow along and try to reach your main aiming point.
Yeah, I
So
love
it's
I
gonna
love
it's
that.
gonna look for the reticle and it's gonna try to follow along. Obviously, you can't just it's a turret, so it's locked. It has
Right.
a short range basically. It cannot rotate fully.
No,
Um,
that's really cool though. I love that though
yeah,
because you're thinking about it like a real ship. And I've always been drawn to sci-fi games. I remember being a kid and watching Star Wars for the first time, and just this idea of like endless possibilities in space, and like there is no limit. There is you can feasibly anything can exist, and I just love that. But yeah, yeah.
yeah. So that was my main goal. That's what I aimed for at first. That was the very first step, right? That's pretty much
Hmm.
what we tackled first, I think, and we've come a long way since then because at first it was pretty rough, right?
Yeah.
But now it works pretty well, and I think it's one of the things I'm not gonna have to touch like anymore ever.
Yeah, no,
It's
it looks
done.
really good.
It's working. The concept is good, and
Yeah.
you know we also
Yeah.
have the big gun if we want.
Yeah,
Can just
nice. There is actually, John, thanks for asking a question. It's a good question. I can take a shot at it, and then David if you want to as well. But the question is, what are our thoughts on developers relying too heavily on fab assets? Because, John, you're saying it seems like the market is saturated with asset flip games. So I'll tell you my perspective, and David, if you want to chime in as well, I'd
yeah
appreciate your perspective. I think also obviously relying too heavily, that's a pretty subjective thing, right? What's too heavy for one person might not be too heavy for another. But I can tell you this: for any indie dev to try to compete with a AAA studio, you have limited resources, right? And your resources are never going to be at the same place a large studio is. So you have to find ways to cut out some of that cost somehow, right? I mean, in a way, using a game engine is just that. Like if you're using Unreal Engine or Unity or Godot or any game engine, you're already doing that because you're basically saying like, I don't have the resources to create my own game engine, so I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to use one that already exists. And I here's another analogy. I'm the king of analogies, I guess. But if I was going to build a house, I'm not going to go to the forest and start chopping down wood, chopping down trees and trying to process them into wood. I'm going to go to the hardware store. I'm going to buy wood that someone else chopped down and processed for me, right? And I look at that as, the marketplaces, all these different resources are there to help cut out like all of those extra steps that are really just tedious and don't really add any value. And in this case, we're looking at this game Galactic Veins. I think that it's you wouldn't be able to create this game right now without the asset store, right, David? And I guess that's a good place to kind of turn it over to you.
Yeah. Yeah, so my thought was, indie devs usually they will go for it and they will do everything, and I
Hmm.
feel like it's pretty tough, right?
Hmm.
Because sure you can learn everything, but first of all it's gonna be way longer and it's gonna be very exhausting. And I don't think you're gonna be good at everything, so there are gonna be some areas where you're gonna lack something. And that's something I find like pretty recurring in games. It's mostly when it comes to UI stuff.
Right.
UI is tedious, and I don't think you can really buy that off Fab.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty specific, right? So
Right.
you have templates, obviously, but it's never gonna be tailored to your needs, and that's where you're gonna see that people are lacking some skills.
Right.
And my logic was, if I can find some pretty good assets on Fab, why not?
Hmm.
And it's gonna allow me to focus on developing the game,
Right.
and that's gonna help me get the game to a testing phase, I guess. So
Right.
let's make the very basic of the game. Let's see if it works well, if it plays well, if it's fun, if people want to play it. And then if people want to play it, then we look at how we can budget things, and then we can get some custom assets. But I see Fab as a pretty much a kickstarting, right? You get a
Yeah.
few assets for very cheap. It helps you pick up, and start your journey. And later on, then you can, like, I guess, bother with having to spend money or maybe learn how to do some 3D assets or whatever. And, just making it look professional. But at first, I think it's a pretty good, like, alternative. So if you want
Absolutely.
to get in and start, I guess, trying to make a game, Fab assets are a very good deal for me.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what I did, like the space creator is what I'm using, and I don't think I've seen like a lot of people use that, so
Right.
if you go for something pretty niche, it's gonna be fine. Obviously, if you go with the same asset everyone used everywhere, then it might be
Right.
a bit weird, but I don't feel like it's gonna be that bad because, as you said, we're not inventing the wheel.
Right.
And what's most important is the game gonna be fun?
Yeah,
If
and I
it's
think
fun
that's
and
the
the
main
asset look
point.
good, then that's fine. That's the
Absolutely.
idea.
No, 100%. It's about having fun, right? I mean,
Yeah.
fun is subjective too, but at the end of the day, like you want the game to be fun. You want people to play it. You want to keep the players engaged. And I think by offshoring the things that maybe you're not good at, or maybe that you don't have the bandwidth for, and getting something from the marketplace, I think is going to allow you to focus more on making a game that's fun, that actually captures the players and makes them want to continue to play it. So I think that's exactly how I feel. And um, for those of you that are kind of just popping in and you're kind of curious, like, what are we talking about here? So I have David. He's from DST Studios. He's someone I've been mentoring for a few months now. He's been working on this game, Galactic Veins. I'll put a link in the chat right now that you can go check his website out and his Steam page and join the Discord to keep up on updates. But really, I just wanted to give a chance that he could show what he's been working on. And if you have questions, if you're curious about his process and how did he get to this point, feel free to drop them in the chat. But kind of my next question, and this is something as a mentor, I already know the answer to this, but I'd love to, hear you kind of explain it to people. But like when you started, like I think maybe you had a very different perception of what it would take to build this game. But like, what are some of the challenges that you never thought, like, oh, that's not something I would have never thought I was going to have to overcome? And then how did you overcome it?
Well, I mean, it's you're gonna have your concept, you're gonna have your ideas, and it's gonna be the tip of the iceberg, right? You're like, yeah, I can make that. I see how to do it, and then you realize there's like for one subsystem, there's gonna be like 10 subsystems, and it gets pretty heavy, like really quick, right? And it's just very time consuming as well. So I guess the hard thing for me is to stay focused because I'm gonna just, I'm gonna work on something and then I'm gonna realize I have another idea and I'm gonna go like, yeah, I can do that now. So I'm just gonna drop it and do something else. And when I come back to what I was originally doing, I'm just like, what did I do? And I have no idea what I was doing anymore. And
That,
eventually I'm gonna eventually like find a better way to do what I was doing. So I'm scrapping everything and starting over.
yeah.
And that's something pretty recurring. I mean, even now when I was doing like some of the UI stuff, you're touching a lot of systems when you do the UI, and you're
Hmm.
gonna realize I could improve this. And if you start improving like everything that you find, it's gonna just make everything way longer. It's gonna take a lot of time, and you're gonna get lost eventually. So I
Right.
guess for me the biggest challenge is to have some structure, and that's something we talk about during a session. I think it's learning to design stuff before actually trying to build it.
Yeah.
That's what helped me the most now because I'm just gonna sketch things and like try to understand what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna see a few steps ahead, and that's what's gonna help you like realize if you're going in the right way or if
Hmm.
you're doing something wrong because you're gonna start building Legos and you need some pretty good base. Like you need a pretty good base because
Yeah.
if you have some very bad foundations, then everything is gonna be like messy afterwards, and it's
Hmm.
gonna be very hard to fix the foundations like once you have the house. It's
Yeah. No,
you
that's
need to,
really
to to do things in the right order pretty much.
that's a good point. And you kind of said it like if I am building a house, I probably want to have some plans, right? I need to have some blueprints.
Yeah.
I need to make sure that it makes sense conceptually before I start to build it. Otherwise, you may get to step three and realize steps one and two weren't what you needed. So I know in a lot of our sessions we talked about like paper prototyping or writing out your, flow charting the system. How should this work in theory? Like, what are the different steps that the player is going to do and how will they interact with it? And you kind of like think through everything on paper, or we use Miro actually. Miro is a great tool for this. And then
Yeah.
once we kind of understood what we wanted, the code pretty much writes itself, right? You kind of just need to implement the thing that we had written down. So I think that's a really good point. And yeah, just I'll put it again in the chat if anybody is interested in mentoring. I'm talking to David, who I've been mentoring for a while. Feel free to find a session that works for you, and we can link up and we can find a way to help you reach your goals. And just one last question that I had for you, and then we can talk about the game a little bit more. But you talk about some of the tools that you use to help you develop this game. But what is one tool that you would recommend right now for every indie game developer to just say like, hey, this is a tool that's going to help you get there faster?
Well, I mean it's not really a tool, but I guess the mentor comes like first. That's definitely the best help you can get, right?
Hmm.
If you want some like pretty specific learning, and if you want to focus the learning towards something you actually enjoy doing, a mentor is gonna be the thing you need because one of the other thing I was kind of missing when I was doing tutorials is I'm not doing something that's related to what I want to do. Like, sure, I can learn how to do some inventory and stuff, but I want to work on my game, right? I want to do
Hmm.
something I want to play next. So having a mentor was definitely the best thing I actually did. But other than that, I guess if you're confident enough and if you have enough knowledge, I heavily rely on AIs, so pretty much ChatGPT or DeepSeek now, I guess. But
Hmm.
I like ChatGPT because even if he tells you is not like, if you ask him, he's gonna tell you, I don't have memory of what we discussed before, but he actually does.
Hmm.
He knows pretty much everything about the game now. So I just, I don't have to like say, yeah, Unreal Engine or ChatGPT or whatever. he knows I'm talking about the game and he remembers, you know.
Yeah.
So
I love that you talk
using
about it
the
as he.
AI as an assistant is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
You can't rely on it for everything because obviously it's gonna have some different sources and sometimes, you know, between like updates, some nodes are gonna change their name or whatever. So sometimes it gets a bit messy. It's gonna put you like towards the wrong direction, definitely. But other than that, I guess 70% of the time it was actually very helpful.
That's good.
And now the way I use AI is mostly to search through the database, I guess. So I'm just gonna tell him, do you know a node that does this specific task? And he's straight up gonna tell you, yeah, there's one, or no, there isn't one. But if there's not one, it's gonna give you an alternative as well.
Hmm.
So I guess learn enough to be able to rely a bit more on an AI, and that's definitely making things like go way faster.
Yeah.
I don't even use like tutorials anymore. I'm just mostly doing stuff on my own, and when I need something, I just go on ChatGPT or whatever, and that's pretty straightforward.
Nice. Yeah, I actually use ChatGPT fairly a lot at my day job, and now that I'm taking college classes, specifically like physics is giving me a run for my money. I'm constantly asking ChatGPT like, "Hey, can you explain to me how this physics principle works?" And, I think it's a great tool, but you kind of said it a little bit. I think with LLMs, with any AI assistant tool, you kind of need to know a little bit. Otherwise, you don't really know how to decipher what is good information. Like you said, it's right about 70% of the time. But if you don't have some core knowledge to fall on, you can't decipher that 70-30 split, right? And I think that's
Yeah.
something that a lot of I think junior people or they want to lean heavily on these AI models, and I think they're really good for filling the gaps, but you need to be able to question it, right? You can't just take what it's giving you as truth. So,
Yeah. As we said, you know, it's a tool, right? And there's a lot of ways to use tools, and
hmm,
there's definitely good ways and bad ways. So
yeah,
if you just think ChatGPT is gonna make your game for you, then it's never gonna work. But
right.
if you actually work with it, then you have better chances of achieving your goal, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Very good point. I got another question here. Um, with Unreal Engine's seemingly rapid release of new functionality, at what point of your process do you draw a line in the sand and, for lack of better terming, settle on a dev engine or version? So, I think you probably are using. Oh, I'm guessing we started so maybe 5.3 or 5.4. Have
Yeah,
you
we're
up?
on 5.4 right now.
Yeah. Have you made the migration to 5.5?
Nope. I
Yeah.
mean, I checked what was new,
Hmm.
and I mean, I pretty much don't need anything, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a
At
good
least
point.
right now is not the time.
Yeah.
I'm not at that point where I'm like, do I need to upgrade or not?
Yeah.
I've got pretty much what I need, you know, for what I want to do. And if they release some kind of update with some very, very cool feature that could be very useful, then I'm definitely gonna, you know,
Right.
take the step and just update. But right now, it seems like a hassle. I don't need.
Yeah, I think that's a really mature way of thinking about it. And I've dealt with this in the past. I was working on a project back in Unreal Engine 4.24, I want to say. Um, 2.5 came out and we kind of skipped it because there wasn't really anything in there. And I think maybe in like 4.27 there was a feature that we said like for this game we kind of need this feature, so let's upgrade. And then around that, shortly after that, Unreal Engine 5 came out, and everyone was talking about Unreal Engine 5, and the person who was leading the project was like insisting that we migrate to Unreal Engine 5 so we can use Nanite and Lumen and all these cool features. And I was like, well, I think those are great, but for this game, we don't really need it, So I think we should just skip
Yeah,
that migration step and let's focus on, let's not add more noise to it, right? So I think, it's really tempting to want the latest and greatest, but I think in a lot of cases, read the notes, read the release notes, do a little bit of research, and decide like, is this something that I need to take the time to upgrade? Is it worth it? And also, when a new version comes out, it's always buggy, right? So like, do you really want to go through that hassle of crashes and losing work and stuff? Give it a few months. So, um,
yeah. And I think you need to be pretty knowledgeable, to
Hmm.
make that kind of decision as well. And I don't think I'm at that point yet.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of things I don't know. And when it comes to nanite and stuff, from what I could gather, nanite is very good, but it's still, pretty steep learning curve. So at first it's gonna be pretty bad. And if
Hmm.
you get good at it, then it's pretty good, right? But
Hmm.
if you just do it like average, I guess, it's
Hmm.
not gonna be that good, and it's not gonna be worth the effort, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Another question here. Do we pay for generative AI or do you use the freeware? I will speak for myself first. I don't pay for ChatGPT, but I do use the GitHub Copilot, and I do pay for that. And because I don't do just game dev, I do some other things too. And when you're writing, obviously I don't think GitHub Copilot works for blueprints because it's not in blueprints, but for like C sharp, C++, and even like if I'm building an app in React, I've found that that's a very good investment of my time because a lot of times uh, the GitHub Copilot will actually like pre-fill the code in your IDE, and I got to be honest, like most of the time it already knows what I want to do. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I wanted. But for you, David, do you pay for ChatGPT or do you just use the free stuff?
Nah, I'm just using the free one.
Yeah.
The only time I paid for an AI was like, I think for Midjourney for 1 month, but
Hmm.
that's it. It,
Yeah.
it does pretty well on the free stuff, and you still get some, you can send, I think, a limited amount of screenshots, but I also use ChatGPT for debugging because
Hmm.
sometimes I'm gonna get an error message, and sure, I can just go and Google and like spend maybe 10, 20 minutes looking for the right answer. But if you want to synthesize stuff, you just feed ChatGPT with the error message, and it's gonna tell you what it is about, and it's gonna give you solutions.
Yeah.
Just overall for debugging, it's pretty good. Like
Yeah.
when you're not asking for new stuff and just debugging, it's gonna be like a synthesis of whatever happened on internet before. So either you go for the forum and just look for like previous thread of someone having the same issue that you have right now, or you just go on ChatGPT and it's gonna just sum it up for you basically. So
Yeah.
that's pretty much. You don't need to pay for it. Definitely not.
Yeah, and I think if you, I don't use any generative AI tools. I guess technically ChatGPT is generating code with me, but usually I'm using it for asking questions that I don't really know the answer to, and hoping that it kind of at least steers me down the right path, right? So,
Yeah.
mm. But yeah, this is awesome. I've been showing your face, but just gonna show the game again real quick, and I put a link. The game is Galactic Veins, and this is David from DST Studio. He's been working on this for a few months now, and I wanted to give a chance for him to showcase what he's been working on. I think we'll end the stream in a few minutes here because it's pretty late where David is
Yeah.
in Europe. But yeah, if you have any questions for David or me about Galactic Studios or his development process, feel free to drop them in the chat. If you are interested in mentorship, one of the things we've been talking a lot during this stream is how having a mentor has helped David. I do offer mentoring services. You can find those on my website, jimdouglas.com. But otherwise, this is a pretty cool game that he's been making here. If you want to show again because I think we got some new people in here. Oh my God. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that battle ram. But yeah, if you want to show kind of the game loop of how the mining system works, I think it's pretty cool how you coded your lasers and everything to work.
Yeah. Let me use it quickly. So there's gonna be a few like that's how I generate as to it fits for now, but that's not very optimized. If you have a bad computer, it's probably gonna kill it. So yeah, if I go back to the mining and then I can show you some of the RTS part as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So mining is pretty straightforward. You need to be at the right temperature to mine some stuff. You're gonna get the clues. The more you harvest, the more knowledge you get, and that's how you have more information on your HUD basically. So I think if I remember, this one is 15.4. That's how you mine. You need the right temperature, and you need to be careful because if you don't respect it, then you're just gonna fail the extraction because you do damage while you make the excavation progress. And if you're too far from the melting point, then it's gonna just make you fail. Like if I go for the dust maybe and I just go pretty hot, no, the life is gonna die. You get an error message, it's gonna tell you extraction failed, and that's how it goes.
Hmm.
Um, for the
Yeah.
control, it's pretty much very strategic but real time. So you need to feed the input, and the ship is gonna maneuver on its own. So you can just put it on low gear and just let it go. You can watch it go. It's gonna keep going until you tell it
Yep.
to stop.
Yeah, and
Um,
I love that because as someone who was in the military, I served in the Navy. You know, it's pretty realistic, and I would imagine if we ever one day have space travel like this, you're probably just going to have some point someone just says like, all right, we know where we're going, just put it on autopilot, we'll get there eventually, right? So I love that.
yeah, yeah. I think I might look into having some kind of. Right now, there's auto dampening, so if you put the engine on like standby, it's gonna slow down.
Hmm.
Eventually, later on, we can have. Even if you have to actually decelerate to stop, but
Hmm.
for now, it's not something I did.
Hmm.
Uh, Again, the control is basically like World of Warship, so you're gonna have your equipment follow along the reticle that's shot from the camera basically. So it's gonna try to reach the point you're actually looking at, if it can, obviously, because the rotation is clamped. Uh, we have a big gun. It's gonna be better later on. Right now, it's pretty early in the development, but basically things can go boom. Um, and now for the fun part, it's the thing I'm actually working on, and it's pretty heavy. So I've been working on the knowledge system so far, and oh yeah, let's try to make it a bit better. So the idea is everything you're gonna harvest is gonna end up in the database. It's some sort of wiki. You can just go and get more information about some stuff. So you're gonna know where to obtain it, a few description. It's gonna evolve the more knowledge you get. There's a harvest count, so if you play for 1 year, you're gonna have a pretty big number if you like that. And it tells you the basic information about extraction, so the laser power required, the laser type, etc. And you can upgrade every single mineral you actually harvest. And to do that, you don't have to pay anything. You just need the harvest count to go up. So for the first level, it's gonna be 50, and you can already preview what you're going to get from getting that knowledge. So it's going to give you a better analysis, so you're going to get a better description, you're going to know the material structure, so if it's solid or whatever. Elementary obtention methods, so it's going to tell you where to actually go to get the mineral, and a bit more information about like heat, whatever. And you know the recipes as well. That's how you unlock recipes for crafting, basically. So I'm just
Hmm.
gonna upgrade it. And now if we go back, we know more information about it. So we have access to the laser power required, the heat range, the unsatisfactory tolerance. So it's basically to help you mine. You know
Nice.
that the heat range is going to be from 1500 to 1600. You need to be in between that. And you can have a difference of 80 to get the minimum reading on your laser, basically. And let's upgrade it once more. And now we know the satisfactory tolerance because there's four different reading for the laser. There's going to be unsatisfactory, satisfactory, suboptimal, and optimal. Optimal is the best one, obviously, and that's what you're aiming for. Um, so that's the base for. Yeah, I
Yeah.
need to work on that. That's the basic of the knowledge system. It's work in progress for now, but I'm making some pretty good progress. But it's
Yeah. I
it's
think.
UI, so it's pretty tedious and it's very
Yeah.
boring. But I'm
Well,
getting there.
we talked about this in one of our mentoring sessions, but like, there's certain players that are just going to love this, like the ability to just really dig in and dig into the details. I'm not a details
Yeah,
guy, but I know a lot of people love this type of gameplay, and Yeah, John again had said, and we're talking with David from DST Studio, working on Galactic Veins. But he said you should do some player versus NPC to race to collect space stuff for your home base, and maybe
Yeah.
some battles. And I know you and I talked about, long term you want to have some type of like space battle elements, or there needs to be something more at stake for the player other than just mining asteroids, because I think that could get boring real quick. But you have also
Yeah,
already been working on the how the ship building would work, and that might be something cool to show.
yeah, I'm gonna show you that, and then we can maybe take a few minutes to talk about the plot of the game and what I'm aiming for in the long run. So the idea, let's just reload. The idea is that you can customize the ship, and to do that, you have some kind of RTS element, and it's literally a new menu. So you get a view of inside the ship, and you can just build modules inside. So it's basically buildings. Let's make it work. And that's how you outfit your ship, basically.
This is
That's
kind
how
of
you're
like the
gonna unlock
gear, like
new functionalities. So yeah,
yeah.
that's the equivalent of gear for an RPG.
This is
Um,
really cool. I love this feature because it allows you to really customize your ship. And if you had like a whole fleet of ships, you could have different ships outfitted for different functionality. I think I've
yep.
never seen anything like this in a game. I thought it was really cool when you came up with this.
Yeah. The idea is that usually in survival games you have a base somewhere, but
Hmm.
in Galactic Veins you just take the base with you. So
That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, this is really cool. And the idea would be if you wanted to focus more on battle, you could outfit your ship with better, armor and weapons and things like that. If you wanted to focus more on harvesting, you could give your ship the tools to harvest, better lasers and storage and things like that. And even some point you could have maybe multiple ships where you could have some going out and cleaning the galaxy of space scum, and some of them, just getting some minerals and farming. So I think this is really cool.
yeah. Right now I'm only focused on the spaceship, but the
Hmm.
idea is that the spaceship is gonna have some pretty limited uh, functionalities when it comes to crafting. So you're gonna have the very basic workshop and the very basic like yeah, it's workshops basically. So that's a refinery, and you're gonna be able to process some very low level recipes
Hmm.
within the ship. But other than that, it's mostly gonna be like about, do you want to upgrade storage? Do you have some kind of specific storage for specific minerals? Do you want some modules that actually increase the capacity of the ship, like maybe the speed, its defensive capabilities, or its offensive capabilities? And the next step is to have a space station. The space station is going to be your main hub, in the
Hmm.
sense that that's where you go to actually upgrade your ship. That's where you go to outfit it. That's where you go if you want to build another ship. And that's going to be the central hub for the game, where you can just go back and forth and just, keep progressing through the game, basically.
Yeah, very
Um,
cool. I love it. Yeah, this is great. And yeah, Mr. Indigo here says the item placement stuff is super cool. I think it's really clean. I've seen a couple iterations of this, but it's definitely
yeah,
coming along really well, where you'd really be able to, you know I think, I played a ton of World of Warcraft. It's an embarrassing amount of World of Warcraft I've played. um, but the idea in RPGs is you go out and you find a sword and you find a shield and a helmet, and you're making your character stronger through the gear you find. And in Galactic Veins, the idea is you make your ship stronger by the equipment that you put onto your ship. And I think that's, I've never seen anything like that. I think it's really cool. And I'm going to put the link in the description again. This is Galactic Veins. I'm talking with David from DST Studio. Go and check out his Steam page. Give this a wish list. um, what's your timeline, David? I know that's like every developer's nightmare, but what is your goal here? Do you expect to have a demo out this year, or what is your plan there? Do we lose you? Oh no. Well, I'm wondering if maybe we lost David, but 3D asteroids with shipbuilding upgrades would sound very fun. Yeah, I think this is a really, really cool concept. It looks like maybe we lost David. I'm gonna see if maybe he pops back in here.
Well, yeah, I'm back.
All right.
So I'm gonna use my phone. Maybe there's some kind of reload on my internet at like 3 a.m. Maybe I'm not usually up this late, so I have no idea.
Well, I did
But
ask a question, and
I'm
you
there.
know, it was perfect timing because I asked, every developer's dreaded question, when is your release date? And then you dropped out,
Oh,
so it was just
yeah, yeah. Might be my network trying to protect me.
But yeah, I
Yeah,
gave a link
so we don't really
to
have a release date, but yeah.
yeah. Um, so I know, a lot of times nowadays, everyone's trying to do early access and, all these various things to pull in wish lists and things. But there is a Steam page. I've given the link a few times. Everyone that's watching, please check out the Steam page. Give this a wish list. Keep it on your radar. And I know David is going to try to have at least some type of playable demo out, maybe this year, maybe early next year. But um,
Yeah, I mean, as always, you aim for a date and you're gonna just set it back. So let's cross fingers and maybe I can get the very, very first extremely alpha test beat for like March or April.
that's
That's
ambitious. I
I'm
love it.
aiming for March for
I
now,
love it. Yeah.
but it's gonna be extremely early.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty crucial when it comes to feedback, and it's gonna help me like stay on the right path because I'm finally gonna get some people other than me trying the
hmm
game, and they are gonna point like at different features and subsystem, and we're gonna get some real feedback on is it fun, is it not fun, and if
Yeah.
you want to make some change, you have to do it early, right? Because if
Yeah.
you're too committed, then it's gonna be pretty difficult to make like some pretty heavy changes to some systems.
Yeah.
So
No, I
that's
agree.
my goal.
I agree. Yeah, no, this has been great. I really appreciate you staying up till almost 3 in the morning to talk with me today. I hope
Yeah,
people enjoyed the stream. I am going to do a couple more links just one more time. I'm going to first link to my website. So if you are interested in getting some help working on your projects, I do offer mentoring services to game devs that want to understand how to build a game, understand how to achieve their goals, and we can work on roadmaps and development pipelines. Anything you need, I'm able to help you out. Please check that out if that's something you're looking for. And then one last time, I'm going to link to galacticveins.com. You can go check out his Steam page. There's a link on there. There's also a link to his Discord where David's been putting out regular updates. And I think also a YouTube and a Blue Sky link so you can
yep.
go like him and follow him on both of those platforms as well. Keep an eye on this. I think it's something very unique, and I can't wait to play it because I actually haven't even played it yet. Funny enough, so I'm gonna keep an eye out for the early test build. I'm gonna be beta tester number 1 or 2. I don't know, but yeah, thanks again, David. I really appreciate your time. And if you have any questions,
Thanks.
hit him up on the social media, hit him up on Discord. But thanks everyone
Yeah.
for showing up tonight, and I'll go ahead and end the stream.